Hey defenders, welcome back to our channel. So I often get this one message over and over again. How do I get myself into cybersecurity domain? How do I see myself into ethical hacking space? How do I get myself into penetration testing space? How do I get myself into compliance and governance space? How do I get into infosec or cybersec space? Okay, let me first give my first-hand experience of how I got into cybersecurity domain. So, but before that, I want you all to know something, right? So, for getting into a job, right? For getting into a job or getting your first job, you may actually get it through a reference. You may actually get referred by someone and recommended by someone to get into a job, and you may even get that job. But let me tell you, to sustain that job, right, you will definitely need to have some kind of an interest that you create on that domain, number one. Number two is skill set. Without the right skill set, you will not be able to win the battle for a long period, right? Because it will otherwise, you will feel daunting. The reason is you should first enjoy what you're doing. You should love what you're doing, right? Honestly, if you ask me, I don't even feel that I work, right? Because I do cybersecurity, which I really love, and I don't even know how the time flies, So it is that much of an interest, that much of flair that I have for cybersecurity. And I personally think gifted people who are able to find that in the early stages of their career, right? Having said this, let me tell you how I got into cybersecurity, right? I was hacked, right? I was hacked by someone, and I don't know who that someone is, and I was very publicly hacked, right? And it was such a situation for me. I felt really shameful about getting compromised and getting hacked and all that, right? But it really struck me so hard. First of all, I wanted to see how that attacker did attack me, because I usually am a very curious kid. I want to know how he did, right? So first thing is, I understood what all technique that attacker used as an offensive method to hack me, right? So that process itself was very time consuming, but let me tell you, it was a revelation, because every time I learned a new trick that an attacker did, it was so exciting, so interesting, and so engaging. It was so intriguing for me that even I wanted to get started to create something like that, to do something like that. But honestly, on strictest of ethical sense here. So having said that, I first learned how the attackers attack, right? Then I also started to understand how I can get one step forward and prevent those attacks, right? If I'm an attacker, I need to know a set of steps. So now I've learned that. Now, what if I want to be a cyber police, cyber cop, or so more of a security administrators, ethical hackers who are one step ahead of attackers, right? So that's exactly what I did. I went one step ahead and I saw exactly how attackers operate and went one step further ahead to prevent these attacks. Let me tell you, attacking or doing cyber attacks give you a kick. I totally understand, and I too believe that, because I do play capture the flags, do bug bounty, do 0 days and so on, right? So I really get high when I do something of that sort, offensive, right? But let me tell you, when you do defensive attacks, right? When there is an attack and you go defensive and you stop that attack happening, and when I say offensive, you know that doing this attack impacts millions of people's credit card data, debit card data, or so on, right? Passwords, usernames, and so on. But let me tell you, when you go defensive, not offensive, when you go defensive, even if you know that one person was saved because of you, otherwise he would have lost all his lifetime savings, and the reason he is still what he is without losing one penny is you. When you know that, it gives you a high. And let me tell you, you can't even equate it to what I'm talking about. So this is such a motivation that each of you have to carry to get into first this domain, right? Okay, talking a little about the spectrum. In a day-to-day scenario, if you want to get into cybersecurity, is it possible? It is not that. It is not really that possible. The reason is, say for example, companies like Infosys, Wipro, HCL, TCS, etc., right, charge millions of dollars to their customers for taking care of their security, right? Say ABC is a client of Wipro, Infosys, HCL kind of organization, services organization. These companies pay millions to HCL Wipro. Why? The reason is to take care of their security. You tell me this, do you think HCL, Infosys, Wipro can actually employ a fresher to take care of security? Would the customers be okay with the idea of taking care of their $1 million secret sauce or data or information to a fresher's hands? Absolutely not, right? That is exactly what I'm saying. So usually cybersecurity professionals are people who climb up the ladder from networking domain, from infra domain, from operating system domain, from being a DB admin. It can be some other domain where they have proven track record, and it becomes easy for them to move from one domain to cybersecurity domain, right? That is exactly how it works. Otherwise, there is an exception, which usually interesting criteria. The exception is this. Say you do a certification, right? So you actually can claim to the client that, hey, I am a fresher, but I have done certification, I have hands-on knowledge, etc. And this is the experience that I bring. You can say I'm not a fresher. I may be a fresher by qualification, but I am not a fresher because I have subject knowledge here. I have hands-on lab access knowledge here, right? So this actually helps you. Having said you are certified into cybersecurity, you have done some certification, you showcase that certification to the client, there are high chances the client would still consider you, right? These are the two main things. So having said, I started my career getting into networking, right? I understood how computers communicate with the other computers and so on. But as a natural progression, the internet also started to expand, right? Every company got into internet. So what happened is, when I did networking, I could actually understand, say even the company size is 10,000 computers. Even if it is 10,000 computers, right? It is within your organization, you're doing networking, right? You're blocking one VLAN, blocking other VLAN, MPLS, IPsec, tunneling, VPN, all that inside 10,000 member organization too. But then I stepped into this called the web application security, right? Web application, every company today has a website, number one. Most startups have a web application, right, with which they raise funds, right? Most of their creations are based on a web or a mobile application. So I got into web application space, understood how web applications work, and then eventually crawled up the ladder to mobile apps. Mobile, both Android and iOS. See how I got into networking, then got into web, then got into both Android, iOS, eventually got into infra. When I say infra, more into Active Directory, domain controllers and all that. But before that, each of this web application, Android application and iOS application, all the three have something called the OWASP top 10. So I started to master each of the top 10 for web, mobile, both Android and iOS, top 10 vulnerabilities. That gave me an immense confidence that I already know the subject to a fairly good extent, with which it also started to spill over compliance space. When I say compliance, governance and risk, right? Otherwise called the GRC, governance, risk, compliance. So this space started to expand drastically. Why? Because every time a client asks, hey, are you doing password encryption? Are you doing backup? Are you doing, 100 questions? Instead of that, customers like to ask, hey, are you ISO 27001 certified? When you ask if you are ISO 27001 certified, it is understood that there is already a set of controls that is met, right? So this is the journey I took for getting into cybersecurity domain, networking, web application, Android application, iOS application. I'm talking all about pen testing. Infrastructure, cloud, governance, risk and compliance. This is my area of interest, and this is how I covered cybersecurity. And I would strongly suggest this path is really easy to achieve path. Having said the path that I have traveled, I would suggest that if you are planning to get into cybersecurity, you may want to consider taking this path. Also, you may want to consider doing IoT and SCADA security as well, right? Because the world is moving towards that as well. So having said all that, what I have learned for the last 15-20 years together, I have made it very small version of short courses, right? So whatever I have learned, whatever important thing, the crux of the subject that's required, I have made into multiple mini courses. And in case you are interested to know more about it, please drop in your comment in the section below. I would love to read about your experiences of how you got into cybersecurity, or please do share your thoughts of why you want to get into cybersecurity. And in case you are looking for internship opportunities to get into cybersecurity, please do drop in the comment section below. I'd be more than happy to see if you would be a good fit for our internship opportunities or full-time opportunities. So feel free to drop in the comment in the section below. I would promptly respond back and connect with you. And in case you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And also, if you think this content was useful, consider sharing and subscribing. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more tech insights on cybersecurity.